Subordinating conjunctions are used to combine two complete sentences into one. A sentence can also be called an independent clause. When two independent clauses are joined together by a subordinating conjunction, one of the sentences becomes subordinate to the other. Put another way, one sentence depends on the other to make it an independent clause. Now let's take a look at the subordinating conjunctions and how they work to join two complete sentences, or, in other words, two independent clauses. There are many subordinating conjunctions. The ones that are listed here are only some of them. After, although, as if, because, before. If, in order that, once, since, so that. Than, that, though, unless, until. When, where, whether, while. Like coordination, subordination is a way of joining two sentences into one. Subordination provides another way to vary your sentences so that your writing is more interesting. Look at this example of how the subordinating conjunctions work. Here are two independent clauses or complete sentences. Combine them with a subordinating conjunction. Using the subordinating conjunction because at the beginning of the sentence would read, because the wind was strong, the tree was blown down. Notice how the sentence, the wind was strong, is now the dependent clause. Because the wind was strong. That means when the word because is put at the beginning of the sentence, the wind was strong, it is no longer a complete sentence or independent clause. It needs something else for it to express a complete thought. Switch the sentence around so that the dependent clause, because the wind was strong, comes at the end of the sentence. The sentence now reads, the tree was blown down because the wind was strong. Look at the two sentences together. They say the same thing, just in two different ways. Because the wind was strong, the tree was blown down. The tree was blown down because the wind was strong. When the subordinating conjunction is at the beginning of the sentence, a comma is placed after the clause. In this case, the comma is after the word strong. When the coordinating conjunction is between the two sentences, there is no comma separating the sentences. Now we will look at another example. Let's join these two sentences with the subordinating conjunction although. Although Jack left early, he was late to work. Notice that the subordinating conjunction is at the beginning of the sentence and that a comma was placed after the subordinating clause. So we have, although Jack left early, comma, he was late to work. In this example, the dependent clause is at the end of the sentence. Here the sentence reads, Jack was late to work, although he left early. Even though the order of the dependent clause and the independent clause were switched, the meaning of the sentence does not change. Tashima is a beautiful girl when she smiles. Notice there is no comma in the sentence. Do you remember why that is? If you said because the subordinating conjunction is between the two independent clauses or sentences, then you are exactly right. Tashima is a beautiful girl when she smiles. Notice there is no comma in the sentence. Do you remember why that is? If you said because the subordinating conjunction is between the two independent clauses or sentences, then you are exactly right. The other sentence does have a comma. This is because the subordinating conjunction comes at the beginning of the sentence. This one reads, when she smiles, Tashima is a beautiful girl. Another way of thinking about this is when the dependent clause comes at the end of the sentence, a comma isn't needed. When the dependent clause comes at the beginning, then the comma is put after the dependent clause. Whichever way makes the most sense to you, is the way you should think about when to use a comma with a subordinating conjunction. After you have written a sentence with a subordinating conjunction, check to see if it is correct. Here's how. Take out the conjunction and see if each clause is independent. In this example, the subordinating conjunction is when. That leaves the clause Ms. Wong eats outside and the clause the weather is warm. Are both of these clauses independent? Yes, they are. This is the correct use of subordination. How about this sentence? The subordinating conjunction is because. That leaves Sean ran out of the house and of the fire. The phrase of the fire is a prepositional phrase and not an independent clause. Therefore, this is not the correct use of subordination. The sentence can be corrected so that it shows the correct use of subordination. Since the first part is an independent clause, we will leave it alone. Change the phrase of the fire to it was on fire. By itself, it was on fire is an independent clause. This is now a correct use of subordination. What about this sentence? Does it show the correct use of subordination? Check it without the subordinating conjunction. Penny knew her is an independent clause, but not well is not an independent clause. Therefore, this is not a correct subordination. Changing the phrase after the subordinating conjunction to read, the relationship was not close, creates a dependent clause. This sentence then shows the correct use of subordination. Let's do a little recap of the ideas presented in this presentation. Subordination is one way of joining two complete sentences, or independent clauses, together to make another longer sentence. This is one way to vary the structure of your sentences so your writing will be more interesting. Remember to use a comma when the subordination is at the beginning. Don't use a comma if subordination is at the end. Another way to remember when to use a comma is if the subordinating conjunction is at the beginning of the longer sentence, then a comma is used. If the subordinating conjunction is between the two shorter sentences, then a comma isn't needed.